This video serves as the last installment of the series on mixing fat drums, and so far we've talked about the kick drum and we've also revealed the mix of the snare in this particular song. And today we're going to be talking about the toms and the hi-hat and everything else that I did in this particular mix to achieve the sound that we have, and that's what's coming up. Hey audio engineers and music producers, thanks for joining me on this particular video. I'm Akurios, and if this is the first time you're seeing me, I'm a musician, a music producer, an audio engineer, a voice coach, a music educator, and an entrepreneur. And I'm here to help musicians find the courage to pursue a career in music and earn a living in the process while improving their skills and talents. So if you're interested in learning tips and tricks in music production and audio engineering, if you're interested in sharpening your music business skills, or perhaps becoming a better singer, then this channel will be very helpful to you. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel, tap the notification bell, and make sure you click the all notifications button so that you are notified every single time there's a video on this channel. Today we continue and actually end the series on mixing fat drums, and I'm going to be showing you the fat sound of the toms in this particular mix, and the hi-hats also, and every other thing about the drums that I've not talked about so far. And I'm going to drop the links to the previous videos on this particular series in the description below, or you'll see the cards around the screen. You can just click them so you can watch the previous videos and have a nice perspective of what we've been talking about so far. So let's head into this mix and see what's going on. All right, so first of all, let's listen to the entire drum mix, every single thing, every element, and have a feel of it. All right, so you can hear that everything is full and sounding tight and nice with all the plugins activated. And you can also have a sense of or a feel of the panning that I have on the toms, the hi-hat, and everything else. Okay, now let's listen to this same mix in the entire mix and listen to how the drums sound, but pay attention to the toms, pay attention to the panning, pay attention to the attack, the transients, pay attention to the tail and the body of the percussion itself, so you can feel what we are doing.
Nobody can question his authority, when he comes into your life, everything turns around. Tell me why you won't lift your head to the one who saves completely. Tell me why your hands won't be raised to the one who lives in the light. Join and lift Jesus high.
Okay, so we have a feel of the drums in the mix. We don't want anything to be too loud or to dominate other aspects and other more important elements of the mix. So those levels are okay. All right, let's see what we have going on in the hi-hats. First of all, again, we have a VMR. I like using the VMR from Slate on my drums. It's just one of those choices that I like to make. So what do we have here? First of all, the first module here is London, which is a saturation module from Slate. And then we have an API EQ, and then 1176, a variation of the 1176. And then we have this trimmer just to drop the volume a tiny little bit. So let's listen to what that is doing to the hi-hats generally, first of all. We'll take it from this point where we have a lot of hi-hat signal. Okay, so what's going on here? We have some saturation. Saturation is at 8.81. That's a lot of saturation. And then we have a high pass filter at around 192 kilohertz. And then the output is just around -4. And the mix is 100% because I want everything going on in this module to affect the signal. And then the EQ, there's boost, a shelf boost at 10 kilohertz. That's 4 dBs of boost. And then there's another boost just to give me another aspect or another section of the high end at 5 kilohertz, 2 dB boost. So we can have a nice, decent ascending or increasing shelf. And then we have a boost at 800 hertz, and that's because I wanted a little bit more body from the hi-hats. And then we have a roll-off, or a cut, sorry, not a roll-off, at 300 because of that boxiness, that muddiness that is usually present in drums. And then the compressor is not doing much here. I just wanted the tail and the body to come up a tiny little bit, and we can hear what they're doing. And this trimmer is just turning down the level just a tiny little bit, less than just about 0.53 dBs of cut. All right, let's listen to what each module is doing. So first of all, I'll turn all of them off so that we can bring them in one by one. So we're going to start with the saturation. Just evens out, especially the tail, the body of the snare. Very subtle. You need to pay attention closely to hear exactly what is going on. And then we have a trimmer just turning down the volume a little bit. And that's the hi-hats. Okay, in the mix, this is how it sounds.
Yahweh is on his throne. Nobody can question his authority.
Now, especially that open hi-hat sound, you want it to come out because that's where the roll of the hi-hat is accentuated. So you want that open hi-hat to be heard. You want it to come out well. You want the tail to be present in the mix. Okay, so if we were to bypass that as it plays.
Yahweh is on his throne. Nobody can question his authority. Yeah. When he comes into your life, everything turns around.
All right, so the toms now. Let's move to the toms very quickly. We'll just take it from this section where we have a lot of tom movement. Just from here to this point. Let's take it from here. Okay, let's listen to just the toms. Introducing a lot of air, a lot of body, a lot of life to the mix. So let's see what we have. VMR once again, and the modules are not too many. We just have some API, Neve preamp going on here. First of all, and on tom 1, that's around 52%, 52 dBs, I'm sorry, of the drive. And then we have no trim. Trim is at 0. EQs, 2 dBs at 7 kilohertz, and there's 400 is being scooped out quite a bunch by 5 dBs, and that's because of the boxiness, the muddiness that we have at that particular section in most drums. And I don't need to show you this particular sound because I would not want to irritate your ears right now. Okay, and then we have a boost at 200 because that's where a fundamental on this particular drum lives. So I wanted that nice low mid of the toms present in the mix. Compression, we just have an input of around 5. An attack, the attack is slow. You want a slow attack because you want to preserve the transient of the drum. It cannot be overemphasized. You want your drums to come out in the mix. You don't want to be compressing the transient and making that transient too smooth. You just want to smooth it out a little bit and then still make it poke through the mix. So the attack is going to be slow and the release is quite fast because I wouldn't want to hold down the drums for too long. Okay, and then output is right there around the middle. Sorry, it's at around 9.1. So it's loud. It's going out loud. There's a second EQ, and the purpose of this EQ is to give me that knock, and that's around 1.65 kilohertz to give me the attack, the what we call the real knock of the drums. So it comes out in the mix. And then I'm doing another roll off of around 670 something hertz. That's 676 hertz, 678 hertz, sorry. And we're rolling out about 3 dBs because I noticed there was a sound there I did not like in this particular drum and in the toms generally. Okay, and of course we have 203 hertz being boosted again by about 2 dBs. And then we have this magic secret sauce of a plugin, the FG Bomber from Slate Digital, and we have the drive at -2. We have the intensity at 21%. Sorry, that's 51%, I mean. And the setting here is fat. So we want it fat. If you want to mix fat drums, you might as well have a fat setting, right? Okay, so that's what the Bomber is doing. And then there's a trimmer at the end just to bring down the level a tiny little bit. And I'm doing 4 dBs here. Remember, I boosted the output of the compressor quite a bit, so it would make sense to drop it in the output stage going out of this particular plugin. Just to drop it a bit so that it's not too loud. So let's listen to the toms. Let's listen to just this tom at this point. Nice body being introduced. Okay, so let's bring in the second tom, tom 2, second rack tom on the left of your stereo field. So you can hear that it's second from the left. And we have similar settings here. Of course, we have the FG73 doing the same thing, right about the same thing, 52 dBs. And then we have 7 kilohertz. There's a 2 dB boost. And then we have similar settings. The release here is different. It's a little bit slower. This is 4.3 on this one. The attack is the same. It's slow. The attack is slow. We want to preserve the transient of this drums. You cannot overemphasize that. And we have slightly different EQ settings on this particular SSL EQ from Slate. We have a boost at 2.2 kilohertz, a big boost actually, 10 dBs, because I wanted the knock of these drums to come out, the transient to poke well, the attack of it. And then we have, of course, the same 6, 7, 8 dBs is being rolled off. And then there's a tiny little cut of 0.3 dB at 203 hertz. And then we're also doing a high pass filter 96, the same settings, but here the drive is 1.64 and the intensity is 54%, settings fat. Trimmer is also cutting out some 3.7 dBs from this particular signal. So let's listen to how it sounds. bypass. All right, so number 3, tom number 3 is giving us similar settings. We have something similar going on, and then we have a boost at 203 hertz here. Remember, in tom 2 I cut out 203 hertz a little bit because it was slightly boomier than this other toms. Even if you're going to have a similar setting for your toms because they are similar sounding drums, most of the time you will be able to tell, or you'll discover that there are some differences and you may not need to treat every single one of them the exact same way. And this is how it sounds. All right, so last by no means the least, we have tom 4, which is the second floor tom. Last, or first from the right, last from the left, in your stereo field. And the settings we have here are simple. Similar settings on the FG73, but there's a trimmer boost here. We're doing a trim boost at plus 2.07 because I wanted it to feed more of the signal into the processors. So we have the API settings, a shelf at 7K, 2 dB boost, and then we have 5, nothing's happening on that, 5 kilohertz, and then we have this 400 being taken out just like the others. But there's a difference here in this boost. I'm boosting 100 hertz, 4 dBs of 100 hertz instead of 200 hertz because 100 hertz sounded better on this particular tom. Compressor settings, we have the input is at 5, the attack is at 4.3, so it's rather it's a little bit faster. In fact, maybe I'll slow that down a bit, take it to 5. And then we have release is at 4 around the middle, also output is at 7.6. And then there's a second EQ also, just like other toms, and I'm boosting again around 2 dBs, sorry, around 2 kilohertz for that knock. I really want that knock, that transient on this particular mix. When you have a dense mix, you want the drums to poke through the mix. Okay, so and here also we're rolling out, sorry, we're doing a cut at 678 hertz, doing a 3 dB cut, 3.1 dB cut. And then here we are boosting 122 hertz for that low end, rich low end fundamental. And there's a high pass filter at 65. And then to this particular magic sauce for drums, we have 1.58 on the drive. We have the intensity at 49%, a little less than other toms. And the setting is on fat, just like other toms. And so that's the setting on this particular tom. That's what's going on. So let's hear how that sounds. Okay, so you can hear that the tail is coming out more after the processing. Now, let me just, for the sake of emphasis, let me hear exactly what this compressor is doing, the FG stress. Okay, so I can show you this. Take it out. Bring it back in. So we have more tail, a more even sound throughout. Okay, so all together now, we have the drums sounding like this from this point all the way to this section. Okay, and the entire drum mix, if we take every single drum, bring them together so you can hear what this processing is doing. Before we go any further, there's a tom group here. There's a subgroup where I'm routing all the toms to. And we have two plugins on that tom group. First of all, we have an EQ doing a small boost around 212 hertz. And then we have something going on around 1.4 kilohertz, a tiny little boost for that knock, because I wanted to boost the transient of all the toms together. And then we have a shelf around 5 kilohertz just for some high-end sheen so that the tail can come out well. So let's solo the toms and hear exactly what this bus processing is doing to them. So with the EQ on, take it out. Bring it back in. You can hear that it's too boomy. The sound of the toms are too boomy, too heavy for the mix. And it is going to cause a buildup of that low mid if we don't do the high pass filter and scoop out that 300. There's actually a cut also around 500, around 582 hertz. There's a cut, and that is introducing a very nice sound to the toms. Okay, the next plugin we have here on this tom group is the CLE76, a compressor just to tame the sound of the toms a little bit so they can sound uniform. Okay, so we have the input around -34. We have the output around -12, -12.4. Now remember, all the way to the right is fast and all the way to the left is slow for the attack and release settings on this particular the 1176 plugins. Even on the hardware, that's the same thing. It's fast to the right and slow to the left. Okay, so we have the slowest attack settings on this particular compressor because, again, we want to preserve the transients of the drums. And then we have a very fast release because I don't want this compressor to do much. I just wanted to introduce the 1176 sound and also do some taming, a little taming, not too much. All right, so this is how it sounds. Okay, so it brings up some of the quiet elements of the sound and also brings together all the toms so they can sound uniform. Okay, and there's also some level that it is introducing to the mix, and that's fine. That's what we're looking for. Let's go to the overheads because I have something going on the overhead. So here I have the R channel from Waves, and I'm boosting the high end a mighty great lot. I have a big shelf around 2.9 kilohertz, boosting a lot of high end. I don't want any dark sound close to this overheads. And then I have the compressor settings here. The threshold is at about -16.2. And then we have the ratio at 4.5 to 1. And then we have a fast attack because these are overheads. And then the release is close to the middle, around 789 or 796. And then we have that going on. There's no expander, it's just compression. Let's listen to how that sounds. The reason I want it to sound bright is because I want the cymbals, the crash, the ride, the splash, everything to come out well and to be bright. I don't want any dark sound in the cymbals, including the hi-hats actually. And so that's what we have. So let's listen to the entire drum groove one more time. And remember, there's a drum group that every single drum element goes into, which has the SSL compressor that has a slow attack, of course, and has very minimal settings. Not much compression is going on here. It's just to do a tiny little bit of gluing to the drum mix. And this is what we have when we solo all the drums together. And if we go into the mix, this is what we have.
Yahweh is on his throne. Nobody can question his authority. Yeah. When he comes into your life, everything turns around. Tell me why you won't lift your head to the one who saves completely. Tell me why your hands won't be raised to the one who lives in the light. Join and lift Jesus high.
Okay, so that's the drum mix, and that's the sound of the drums on this particular song. I want to see how you approach your own drum mixes, how you apply your EQs and compression, saturation, reverb, delays, and so on. And that would be amazing. Now, you can reach me on my social media. My details will be flying around the screen somewhere, or just drop a comment in the comment section below, and that would be fantastic. I'll be glad to get back to you on that. Okay, now if that was helpful, go ahead and tap the like button, give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Tap the subscribe button and also tap the notification bell so that you're notified. Thank you so much for watching the series, and if you haven't watched the previous videos, the links are going to be in the description and the cards are going to be on the screen so that you can watch every single part of the series. So from me here at Salem 7 Music Studio, I'm Akurios, and I'll see you next time.